Welcome to Parchment and Clay. I'm Dr. Eric Harvey. Today we're going to look at the Sumerian proverb 4.60. In regard to both expenditures and capital goods, the butthole is well supplied. Because I'm a very serious scholar and because this is a very serious scholarly channel, we're going to dedicate this week to ancient Sumerian proverbs about butts and also farts. This is a good one to start with because I like the way that it mixes the register of economics and commerce with what turns out to be a poop joke. Mesopotamian studies and the decipherment of cuneiform languages have something of a Victorian era problem, since it was in the Victorian era in the 1800s that the cuneiform languages were first deciphered and started to be translated. A lot of the early translations were translated with all of the delicacy and sensibility of the Victorian upper class. They didn't like to translate bodily terms crassly or earthily. They didn't like to translate sensitive anatomical terminology in a normal, vulgar way. They used delicate euphemisms, and that tendency in translation continued well through the 20th century. And it's only been in relatively recent decades that scholars have moved away from that. But in generally, what they've moved toward is sort of language of clinical accuracy. So instead of saying posterior or backside, they might say anus, which is more accurate in one way, more precise, but also it tends to be very sterile and clinical sounding. It's not very often that you'll hear proverbs like this, which, insofar as they were probably told among the regular populace, weren't using clinical or euphemistic language, right? They were probably just using common vulgar terms like butt or butthole or even asshole or things like that. And so in this, I'm going to try and translate them in sort of a normal everyday sort of way that is mildly crass, but not incredibly offensive. It's also hard to just know what the registers of different words for the anatomy were in ancient Sumer. But it's very seldom that you'll find this proverb translated with the word butthole for the sign bed 3, which is the cuneiform sign used to indicate the hole out of which poop comes. So this proverb on its own is just delightful in the way that it starts out with a setup that's rooted in capital goods and expenditures, right? The language of wealth and commerce. And then where it ends is that, like, even the butthole is well supplied with these things. So I take this proverb to be a kind of statement that even if somebody is well supplied with a lot of goods, it doesn't mean they're not full of crap. Let me know if you have a different take on this proverb or if you're going to start using it in your everyday life. And please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and tune in again for more daily doses of ancient common sense. Bye.